That's right, everyone. Welcome to Sykes' Survivor Talk. I want to say this is episode 5 of the Survivor Talk. We'll be talking about Winners at War, episode 11. As far as I'm concerned, I'm so amped up to talk about this. The best episode of the season, maybe the best episode of Survivor in 2 or 3 years. I can't wait to get you guys' take on this. Top story, obviously, the Tribal Council, the huge vote out where Sophie was blindsided. My winner pick, gone, devastated, but at the same time, I was rooting for Tony every step of the way. I freaking love Tony. I love seeing it. It was amazing Survivor. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, Tony's pretty entertaining to watch. I love it when he gets into his crazy mode.
Tony's both entertaining and an excellent game player.
Yes, he is.
I think Tony, for me, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I enjoy watching him.
What is it?
That.
Okay.
I second that. I am not a fan of his, but I do. It's entertaining. But
the entertainment factor is there for him, but yeah.
But he's
You're
annoying.
watching a show for entertainment.
He's yes, but he's annoying.
He is.
In what possible capacity is he annoying?
Well, he's loud and ridiculous. I mean, okay, the ladder a couple episodes ago, that was the best. That was the best. But he's just a bit of a moron.
He seems like he does
Like, I'm sorry.
like that he shouldn't do, but it works for him somehow.
Right? And he is smarter than he looks. I'll give him that. Like in that, I haven't ever seen anybody be like, 5 minutes before I'm gonna like drop this bomb and then it's gonna work. Because so there was some stealth there. I'll give him that. He should get
played it well. Like he knew how the players were going to react, and it's just like he knew he had to do it last minute. Like he was just smart the entire show. It was amazing. He played it very well.
That was great at the end when he said, "I'm going to time it half an hour." Then they cued like the sun going down. It's like, all right, people, listen up. I thought that episode was great because you got all the strategizing. You got to see a bit more of that. So it led into it. And you keep thinking, all right, so who's going to flip and who isn't? So I thought that, yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. It's funny because I listened to that one, the podcast from Rob, where he basically said the same thing. Just said, hey, this is the best episode so far of the season, and if not in ages. And I think because last week's, while it's great to have all the hugging and crying and all that stuff,
it was terrible.
There was
ridiculous.
There was 8 minutes of gameplay inside that. So
exactly, Steve. I agree with you 1,000%. I don't have time to watch shows like that where I don't understand what the hell is going on, and all of us are sitting around afterwards going, "What the hell just happened?"
Dude, it was terrible. Can I just interrupt? Can I tell you guys? This is why I was floored that Greg's partner watches Survivor, because I watched it. I sat there, and all of a sudden, like they're doing the hugging, and you know what? I get along with my family, but I can last a long time without seeing them. And then at the very end, it was like, I know it's not WestJet, but it was like, and brought to you by WestJet. And I just blurted out with my partner. I'm like, I just watched a half-hour infomercial, and I'm going off and I'm talking to him about it. And he looks at me. He's like, you are talking to the wrong person. And then it was over. And it was.
Hey, Fiji Airways. Come on, man. Bus talking Fiji Airways. I want to go to Fiji. I'll plug Fiji Airways right now. It's not a paid promotion.
Goodness, if Fiji Air didn't provide it to us. So,
exactly. And they've got a lot of people out there. They must have an entire plane full of people coming over from the States because there were a lot of people there. Anyway, that's last week's episode, guys. Let's focus up on this week's episode. My brother just showed up and joined us. Paul, how did you like the episode? How's it going?
Good, man. Sorry about the delay. I have computer problems. That was the best episode I've seen in a long, long time. And right. I think it had everything in it, which was lacking in the previous episodes.
Yeah, and I think it's been a good series and a good season so far. It started to tail off there a little bit because we didn't know what the hell was going on. And it's like the editors were out to lunch for a couple of weeks and they finally got it back together and like, oh, this is what people want. They want us to tell this story. We all had an idea of what every player was thinking, at least at some point. We had a couple of options for who was going where, but we didn't know exactly the suspense as to whether or not Jeremy took the bait there. That's how you tell that story, man. Yeah. You're on the edge of your seat. You're going like that final vote, and it comes down to the final vote. Where is it going? Is it going Sophie? Is it going Jeremy? And you know what? As much as I love Sophie, I was so excited to see that happen. It was the coolest.
It was a great episode. My only concern, it wasn't the editors changing course. It was just there was so much Tony Gold in there. They had to show it all, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think he really drove how they edited that episode.
Well, he just took the show by the horns, man. I mean, from the second that show kicks off, Tony is on top of it. He's waking up in the morning. Right, he's having a little powwow with Jeremy afterwards. Like, what are you doing? I can't believe. Why'd you leave? What do you mean? Why did you leave? You're gonna vote me out, jerk off.
The best part for me was the episode starts off obviously with him finding a hidden immunity idol, and then later on he sees this note in the bag that of what Natalie found the extortion advantage on Edge of Extinction. And sent it to him, but he didn't realize. He's like so excited to get it, and he thinks he's gonna extort someone, and then he realizes it's being played on him, and he gets all mad about it.
That was
that
good.
was the funny part.
That was great, and the way he actually tried to get the fire tokens from his fake alliance and then his real alliance, it was just like something only Tony would have the audacity to pull off.
Only Tony would make this move at this point in the game, too. Who
I
else
hope
is
he
making
gets
this
voted
move?
out.
He's in a solid fight.
What?
I hope he wins the goddamn game.
I hope Sarah takes him down.
Why would you want to lose someone like that? He's amazing television.
Yeah.
Let me see. Who do I want to watch on TV? Do I want to watch Tony or do I want to watch Sarah Lucina? What?
Come on, she did a fashion show.
What?
She did a fashion show.
I love the fashion show. That was great personality that we saw to Sarah. I'm not a Sarah hater by any stretch of the imagination.
Sounds like you're a Sarah hater.
Look, if you're weighing Tony and Sarah, I want to see Tony on my TV all day long. It's entertaining.
Okay, if the latter
His strategy
comes back.
was amazing. His strategy was amazing this episode. He
I'll give
really
you that.
right down to the last minute. But so Sophie's voted out. Any thoughts, last thoughts, parting words for Sophie here?
Why didn't she use her idol? I feel like they were
I
totally
didn't
setting her up at the beginning where it's like, you don't know what's going on going into tribal. You don't know who's voting with whom. Like, safe vote. Just do it. Play it.
Sophie had no idea it was coming. If this episode does have a weakness to it, I would have liked to see more from Sophie on her boot episode, but maybe there just wasn't. Maybe there wasn't enough there.
She's
I
really
agree.
likable.
Yeah, Sophie's terrific. And I thought that was so sad when she goes out. She's like, I always considered myself kind of a bottom tier winner, but I think I held my own. Like, that's kind of sad to think about. I think she did a really good job in the season that she won.
And I would consider her a middle tier winner anyway.
Yeah, middle. I'd give her middle tier winner. I don't think she's a top tier winner, but I think she was one of the better players in this season for sure. She just, you know what? You don't get complacent with Tony. I love people were sleeping on this guy. They're like, oh, we got Tony under control. Nick Wilson wakes up in the morning and sees Tony looking for an idol, and Tony's like, hey, go this way. And Nick's like, yo, okay. Tony's up in the morning before the sun's up in the dark looking for an idol. You fucking follow that guy everywhere. What are you talking about?
Who did that with
It's insane.
Who did that with the termite mounds? Somebody else did that same move. Go look over there. Was that last season? Termite mounds. They directed them. I don't remember.
The termite mounds, yeah.
Rob did something similar on Edge of Extinction earlier when he told, I think, Tyson maybe to go off one direction and or something like that. And then he found the 3 fire tokens and Tyson found one.
Yeah, Rob did do a bit of a misdirect there. That was a good play.
Do you think that Nick knows that Tony? Because they never really revealed that.
Nick knows what?
Does Nick know that Tony actually found it? I don't think they ever.
No, I don't.
Oh no.
No.
Nobody knows what Tony's up to.
Well,
I don't believe it for 5 seconds that Nick knows what's going on.
I was wondering if that's why he brought him into that kind of pseudo alliance, though. They just maybe didn't reveal that.
Yeah, it's. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just think it's interesting that Nick made that move. I think Nick was looking to make a move and put his mark on the game. I think Tony approaches him with something interesting. Nick wasn't like the blandest player in the world when he played. He just hasn't been given that much of a spotlight this season. He's given an opportunity. Tony gives him like Nick's number 5 in that 5-person alliance, the Ben, Sarah, Sophie, Tony alliance. He knows it. And at this point, maybe he's up to 4, right? Tony's the one doing the flip-flopping, but I do think it's to Nick's advantage to make this move.
Yeah, and if you have to give Nick some credit, because we rag on Nick a lot, at least Nick's willing to make moves.
Totally.
Right? And some people won't take the risk at this point. So I appreciate the fact about him.
Yeah, over Nick and Ben, I think Nick is one that would make a couple more moves than Ben would. Ben seems like he's just been following the leader this season so far.
Ben has been doing nothing this season. Sorry, Steve.
Yep.
His social
People
game
who
is
pick
atrocious. Ben's social game is atrocious.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a few people who really dislike him, like even Adam. Like I don't know if he has many votes at final. So
I think he's drawing dead.
Yeah, big time. I don't think he makes finals though.
Of the people still in the game, Ben has 10 less points than
Shut up, he's my player.
any other survivor has accumulated. And that's Nick with 64, Ben with 54.
Yeah.
who I have both of.
Nice. You
Tony
just
must-
went with. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just gonna say Tony must have got a hell of a lot of points last
Oh
night.
yeah.
He did. I wanted to talk to Ryan before we came on to finalize the spreadsheet because I've marked it the way we've marked all spreadsheets so far, and
Right.
he got a crap load of points.
Yeah, we'll discuss later on in spreadsheet talk. I'm curious as to
Yeah.
where you went with that because Caitlin and I were talking about it a bit last night, and I think it's with that much movement with fire tokens, it's going to be pretty interesting. Do you guys
Natalie Anderson should have cleaned up on with the fire token.
So yeah, we'll talk about that. I think Nat, because she finds the clue, she finds the. Well, let's do
Yeah,
spreadsheet
we'll
talk
talk later. Yeah.
All right. So, do you guys, closing off travel here, do you like this move for Tony?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
I like the move for the game. It's a big move. Sophie was, in a good position. I'm curious how the next episode goes for him. If there's anybody who is really bitter over it, or
Sarah's
one
going to be
person.
bitter.
Yeah, there's one
yeah.
person.
I think
Regardless
it's
of-
very interesting. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No. I got some tea here.
Okay. Regardless of the fallout with Sarah, I think this is a great move. I don't see him in that 5 not being 5th, especially with Sarah and Sophie being so tight, right? I just don't think Sarah's looking to axe Tony, but at some point later in the game, right? Tony has to get the jump on her. And to make a sub-alliance of 4 out of 5, and I think for next vote, because you could essentially go 4-4, you could easily bring in Sarah for that vote too, because no one wants to go 4-4. So I think this, and if you're boiling down your final 4 to Nick, Jeremy, and Michelle, I think that's a good final 4 for Tony.
I think Jeremy's his only threat.
Yeah.
Right? People like Jeremy. People really gravitate towards him, but I think he hasn't made many moves, and he hasn't really been the decision-making. At this point, look, there's still a lot of moves you can make with 8 people to go, plus another person coming back in the game. So there's still a massive resume you can build, but Tony just... Ooh,
We make
whatever.
bets on who's coming back. Sorry.
Probably too early to say. Yeah, it's really tough to really call that. We can maybe towards the end we'll kind of maybe posit that question out there. But I think you're gonna lose 2 more people, maybe 3 more people, and then you're gonna have somebody come back in. So it really depends on who ends up there, I think. So we like the move for Tony overall. I do think you're maiming Sarah, right? You're clipping her wings, which is smart because Sarah got screwed over by Tony in Cagayan, and I just downloaded the entire season of Cagayan in HD, which I intend to watch this weekend because Tony's really got me amped up. I want to see Tony's season again. I love watching the guy play. He's a lunatic. But it's amazing TV. What do you have if you don't have Tony out there? You got Nick Wilson talking about, you got Ben being in it. It's not that entertaining. This guy's pure
Them are
entertainment.
actually kind of boring.
Yeah.
I like Kim.
Yeah, Kim's okay. So we can talk a little bit about Kim too.
Great episode for Kim.
Yeah.
Great
Really good
episode
read.
for Kim.
Really good. Like although she was on the wrong side of the vote, really good reads.
She knows Tony's bullshitting her the entire time. I love it. I mean, she's really, really smart. I don't know about the move by Kim to make the flip, though, right? That's interesting. Is that a good move to make that flip? You save your ass, right? Because Jeremy's gone. She's like, well, what else do I have? What play do I have? At least I can save my ass for another tribal, which you can't really falter for. But you can't see that coming. You can't see Tony coming. And people got lazy on Tony. And he did the right thing that he needed to do, which was lay low for 10 episodes and do nothing and lull people into this sense of like, oh, Tony's fine now. Don't worry, we can trust Tony. Amazing.
It was really Kim and
Amazing.
Denise who prompted Tony to make this move too, right?
Mhm.
I think that by the fact of them flipping over, perhaps Tony was worried about an all-female alliance, picking off the guys.
Mhm.
Maybe he was worried about getting lost in the numbers there, or maybe he was just realized because they're going to split votes, now is a perfect opportunity. But it was because Kim and Denise went to that side that Tony could make that move.
Is it baking soda or?
What? Someone's interested in baking soda. All right.
Like, is it baking soda?
Disappear, please.
One thing I want to point out that I don't think anybody noticed or has noticed, Nick and Michelle have voted together, despite the fact that they seem to be on different alliances, have voted the same way for the last 5 tribal councils. I still think there's something going on there because they. No?
Would you think there's like a secret alliance? Like, okay, you go on this team, I'll go on this team, and you tell me what's happening if the vote comes. Do you think they're were they ever that close though? Are we given any indication that that's what's going on?
It was them and Wendell and Ewell, right? And they took out Ewell and they voted together on that. Then Wendell goes out, they vote together on that. And the last 3 votes they voted the same way on, despite the fact that they appear to be apart. So I don't think the show is giving us all the information. We haven't seen them interact that much. But it's just something I noticed. I looked through the Survivor Wiki today to see who voted for whom, and I saw those 2 because I had a suspicion that they lined up perfectly, and they do. So if there are twosome, and that'd be so stealth, right?
I was gonna say that would be an amazing stealth game if that's what's going on.
Really good vibe, and I think Michelle's playing quite a good game as well. She can't articulate it as well as Kim can. Kim looked amazing last night in terms of her gameplay. She did the best that she could with what she had, right? And she read Tony quite well. Okay, let's see. So let's get back into, we'll go through the episode. The episode opens up Jeremy back at camp where he talks about how he's not going to the edge of extinction with an advantage in his pocket. I think that's the right move for Jeremy. Obviously, people are mad at him, like Ben's mad at him, Tony's mad at him, which makes no sense whatsoever. But
I don't think Tony was mad at him. I think Tony was playing it up
Tony
for a
played
specific purpose. But Ben was just acting like kind of a bit of a bitch.
Ben's mad because he wanted to vote Jeremy out.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, kudos to Ben for kind of standing his ground and being like, no, Jeremy, I'm not listening to you. You're the greatest threat. What are you talking about?
I guess, but that's not good gameplay.
No, it's not actually. That's right. Being completely unwilling to listen because Jeremy comes in and he's trying to talk to him. And at least say yes. You got to say yes to everybody in Survivor. Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. I really do think that's a good idea. But I love that
doesn't matter what they want to bond with you over. Boston Dog
Nothing.
said this. It doesn't matter. You pretend you like Oreo cookies. You pretend you're a Christian. You pretend like you. If you need to bond with someone, fake it.
Yeah. It's like Sophie on the season she won. She pretended she was hardcore Christian.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Coach and Brandon Hance and all these guys were sitting around in prayer circles, and she's like, "Okay, I'm on board with that." Even though she's definitely not. So I love that we get that we cut to Tony then in the morning. And he's talked about how he can't look for idols at all, but he's like, okay, I'm going to be patient. And he makes his move before everybody gets up, which is the time to do it, right? At Final 9, I think it's the time for Tony. He can't be patient anymore. He's got to make the moves, right? He plays Nick like a fiddle. Like he just plays him so hard. Yeah, Nick, go off over there. Yeah. Oh, but I haven't checked the well yet. Nick! That's the one place he's obviously checked if he's telling you that. But all right, I love it. I found this little package. I grabbed the little package and I ran into the jungle. Say hello to my little friend. I love it.
It was full on. These aren't the droids you're looking for. That was
exactly. That's a good guy. I like that.
Move along. Yeah. Steven, nailed it. Move along. He totally did. And then we move into, so this is great. We see Tony get the idol. It's freaking amazing. We it's coming, right? Because the camera's obviously following him around. We know we're going to get it. I love Tony's exuberance upon finding this thing. And then we move into the Sarah Lucina fashion show, which they open up on her and she's like, a lot of people, they just think I'm smart and funny and pretty, but actually I'm really creative and I made my own clothing. And I thought, what? At first when she's saying that, I'm like, what? Is she serious? And then it's obvious she's just fucking around, but I thought it was so funny. I don't know. Did you guys like the fashion show?
I love those. Those little character moments give a lot of texture to the game, and it's something that they've lost sight of in the recent seasons. And I really helps you know the characters, care about the characters. That was great.
You know what, Paul? I'll add to that. I commented on the soundtrack. I thought they're going to start playing Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Well, the music cues were really interesting in that. Yeah. Or they could have played, what's that? God, there's a video with George Michael. Hey, you're just too funky for me.
Yeah, you're just funky for me on the runway.
Randy should know that. Yeah. Randy's the pop music king, where Tyra's in there and Linda Evangelista, and they're walking down.
They're wearing like bicycle part, like really strange clothing. Yeah, outlandish stuff. Yeah.
I like the musical cues. They were different. The girls did all these like cool moves and everything. And Tony's the only one who's like, I don't really care for this. Yeah. Interesting that came out of that. Sarah says Tony's not really, because Tony's like, I don't really need this. And Sarah's like, Tony's not really playing a social game. What do you guys think about that? Is Tony socially, do people like Tony? Because I think they do.
I think they do. You got the impression from Jeremy. I mean, the people think he's full of, some people obviously think he's full of shit like you saw, but Jeremy seems to really like him. Michelle likes him. He seems to have a relationship.
People are still skeptical of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That hasn't gone away, but he is not in the same position as he was on his first season, where he was just hated by everybody for the stuff that he was doing. So
he was hated by Cass.
Yeah.
He was hated by Trish, but then Trish would just be like, "Oh, okay, Tony, I forgive you." I'm gonna do a rewatch of this whole thing. I think in the off season, if anyone's interested in doing a Kagayan rewatch, I'd be down to having a Survivor chat about it. So yeah, there's one thing more I wanted to say about the fashion show, and I don't know if we got off that, but if you listen closely, Ben is in the background going like, yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah. Like every time somebody walks out, it's super weird.
You know what I realized? And I didn't realize this is first season. Ben's the worst. I really don't like this guy.
Yeah, I think people were kind of rooting for him in that season, and I definitely was not. But I didn't really dislike. The show really played up this sort of Marine story and his post-traumatic stress disorder and stuff, and it was fine. But he just doesn't really have. I don't know. I think I would have preferred in that spot Mike Holloway, but because I think that's probably the toss up there. Are we getting Ben or are we getting Mike Holloway?
Yeah,
I think Mike Holloway's probably a more interesting player, but whatever. We got Ben. We'll probably never see Ben again.
You think he's the worst winner on this season?
I mean, his win had a lot of luck involved. He pulled out an idol in the last 5 tribal, something like that, and then went to a fire making challenge. I just think I don't know if he's the worst winner this season. He's up there. His social game is just inept though. It's just watching him how he rubs people the wrong way. I just don't think it's very good.
I think he's lucky he got the invite, honestly. I think he's thanking his lucky stars he got that invite, because there's a bunch of people who wanted to be on this show that couldn't get on the show. So, speaking of Tony, pulling the wool over people's eyes, even Jeremy's he's extremely believable. He says in quotes, I talked to him and he was extremely believable. This is when Tony's bullshitting Jeremy. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm on board with you guys. And he buys right in. Kim has the read, right? Doesn't buy it for 1 second. And I
used to think Jeremy had a great read on everything, and maybe Tony is just that good at it. But I was like, really, Jeremy, you're buying this from Tony? But then when he had to believe Tony at the end, when Tony was telling him the truth, he bought into Tony, right? And that was the right read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. So we get to the edge of extinction. We'll go through this pretty quick. I like how Tyson at the beginning is talking about the effect that losing the game has on certain people. I thought that was a really interesting insight, in that all those people on the show, or a lot of the people who are out there right now, have never lost the game before, right? And Adam, cut to Adam, and he looks really cut up about it. But there are people who just dwell on it for years and years and years, right? And I think it can really mess with your head. And so that was a little bit of interesting insight. I wish they'd kind of talked about that a bit more, but I think we got what we needed to get.
Because Tyson has lost in as embarrassing a manner as you possibly can lose.
Worst possible, yeah. I mean, that's a questionable vote out, but in terms of his motivation, but that's the worst way you can lose if that was legitimate. But we don't need to get into heroes versus villains. So we get Natalie finding the clue, and then her and Parv spend some time searching, and they find it under the bed. I like the teamwork there. Parvati's distracting everybody well, and Nat goes under and makes the search. What do you guys think about this extortion advantage? All these new twists this season.
Loved it. I thought that was.
I love it.
Especially when it sat down there. It was this most perfect. It's this perfect editing of mean-spiritedness, and it was awesome. Especially when we'll find the biggest sucker who will fall for it, who's driven by ego. Then it cuts to him, and it cuts to the commercial. Oh, that was fantastic.
The two cuts.
So excited at first to get it.
Yeah.
I know that. Oh, Greg, you're absolutely right. That was so funny. Just watching them sink the hook and.
Because we see him unroll it for the first time. I kind of thought about it and I was like, oh, did production just get him to reread it and like go through and be all surprised? No, we see him unroll it, take it, he races in. Tony races in, slides like he's sliding into third base. Right? Digging through to the backpack, whips it out, he unrolls it. He hasn't read the last part. He's reading through it. He's amped. And then to get to this idol is being played on. What? Extortion. First word I read is extortion. Sounds fun. Like when they do it in the movies. They break some guy's leg. Love it. I love it. Everything he says is so funny.
I'm just glad he's not a fast reader because.
I know. Yeah, I know. I kind of had that. You know, well, we knew how it was going to be played anyway.
Size 60 font.
Yeah.
The Steve dead on with the two cuts where they talk about somebody totally chaotic who would stop at nothing and would pay absolutely.
Yeah.
And then they quick cut to Tony looking all like thoughtful in the distance, and they got the pan flutes going, and then boom to commercial. I love it.
I'm of two minds about this extortion advantage.
Okay.
So it played out as perfectly as they could possibly imagine this playing out, right? From going to the right player, from him winning the immunity challenge, from him able to get the thing, like it could not have worked out any better for them. At the same time, this is getting into little dangerous territory where they're going to start like the audience has decided that you have to wear like clown shoes and this bozo wig for the next 3 immunity competitions, and that's so Big Brothery, and that's
straddling the Big Brother line.
It's straddling the Big Brother line, right? And I'm very. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say, I thought it obviously made for great TV, but I thought it was a little bit harsh on him, especially for players outside of the game to make that call. I think if it was players inside the game who had that, then fine. But it was in people who aren't on the island anymore to like dictate that, to take them vote away, that's pretty harsh.
Yeah, agreed.
So I'm not a big fan because I think it could have put him at such a big disadvantage that it could have ruined him or his grades too.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it just seems like so far it's been like giving advantages, and now it's just like, okay, flip side, sorry, like now we're gonna screw you over. Like I kind of love that dynamic where it's just like now you're actually fighting again to another level to keep yourself into the game. I think it was great.
Sure, but if your game is submarined by that, like if you end up getting voted out, it would be such a controversial like thing, and you would. But if people already having trouble with PTSD after Survivor, if that happened to you and you got voted out, you'd be years getting over that.
Well, but
it's
what
just,
doesn't? Yeah,
go. Sorry. I was just going to say, but it's ridiculous. He didn't even need to participate in the immunity challenge anyways because he had an idol. So it's just like, regardless, he was sticking around. But it was just, everything just played out Tony this episode. It was crazy. Yeah.
I do think him winning that immunity gave him the balls to go up and say, okay, I'm going to try and flip something around here because he knows safe, right? And so that does have a major impact on the game. And I'll just say to that, like, yeah, it's getting a little bit goofy. Those guys on Edge, like it or not, that's part of the game now. They're still technically a part of the game. So yeah, sending in weird stuff from Edge is.
I liked it.
You know, what are you going to do?
Because they're trying to get back into the game, and the only way they get advantage is from the tokens. So if they can screw, and I think it says a lot about your relationships in the game. Had it been Ben who they gave it to, he might not have given the tokens that were needed, right? And so you have to have relationships in there. I really like the twist. I think it's a little bit of mean.
Yeah, it's fun. It was a really smart decision by Parv and Natalie to pick Tony. I mean, who else is going to be able to drum up 6 fire tokens like that from people? 2 alliances. He spans every alliance by being able to. And I was like, oh man, he's screwing Jeremy over. He's going to vote him right out after this. Wow, he screwed Ben over in a big way, which I can't say bothers me.
Yeah,
I think that's the right move if you're going to screw somebody over. And I love that Driebergen is like, well, I'm in this 5 now. This 5's going all the way. I think we're pretty solid about it. And he just gets.
That's great.
Pretty amazing.
The other thing, too, is I was wondering, as soon as it happened that he won immunity and got 2 more fire tokens, if he would have given those 2 fire tokens back to Ben, Nick, or Jeremy, who gave him 3 fire tokens so that he could pay this 6 fire token extortion.
Right. I'm wondering if he already paid them back, or now he's going to be like, you know what, Jeremy, here's yours, Nick. Fuck you, Ben.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's fobbing Ben off. I think he's going to keep Nick, and
But
especially
they
Jeremy,
obviously
he's going to
knew
keep
that
happy.
he won and got 2 fire tokens, but they didn't show any of those 3 going back to him and saying, hey, like, I gave you a fire token, like, give me one of your fire tokens back. It just seems like he took the 3 fire tokens, used it with his 3 to make the 6 extortion, and then 1, 2 more, and just is keeping them.
No, there was a confessional about him saying that he wants to use those to pay off his debts, because I don't think it's a good move not to at least pay off 2 of those debts, because remember, these people are going to be on the jury too, right? So I think that it's the smarter move to pay them back, and I think he will. But he's gonna have to probably snub one person, and probably Ben at this point.
It makes more sense to snub Ben at this point, hands down, no question about it.
We'll be talking more about this when we talk about the spreadsheet and points. So
Yeah,
excellent. Okay.
Did we ever get a reaction shot did Natalie in Poverty ever get to know that that Tony actually pulled it off?
No, I don't think we find out anything about that.
Okay, because I'd love to see.
Well, they're at Tribal, right? And Tony's at Tribal.
Yeah.
So, and they can count the number of votes. If Tony doesn't vote, then I think it's pretty obvious, because they had to read.
Well, he's also wearing the immunity necklace,
and he's got an immunity necklace. So it's pretty obvious that he competed in the challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
Too true. I thought Michelle made a great move by coming up on the fly. Like, Tony comes up and says, "Hey, can I get some fire tokens?" And she has to explain why she doesn't have any. But she says, "Oh, it's for an advantage on Edge of Extinction," and she delivers it pretty earnestly. I think he buys it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Her advantage is kind of shitty, but it's still an advantage, which Tony, her knowing about it and Tony not knowing about it, is obviously works in her favor. So I thought that was a pretty good move.
Because they had that seed, do you think that advantage plays into the game?
She'll use it.
Yeah, factors in big into the game, though.
When you're down to 7 or 8 people, everything is a huge factor in the game, right? I don't know. What do you guys think? She got the flip a coin one.
Yeah, but she could go home with it in her pocket, like half the people.
Yeah, how many immunity idols have been played correctly this season?
I guess if you consider
Denise's.
Denise, yeah.
Denise did.
Is that the only one?
And Jeremy's.
Yeah.
He left.
Well, that's
that advantage.
Presumably, the vote was going for him.
It was 100% going for him.
That's not an idol. That's not an idol. It's an advantage.
Well, it's pretty much. You know what I mean?
It has a different sort of power to it.
The only distinction for me would be on the spreadsheet. If you play
I'm not worried about spreadsheet.
You get extra points. If you
play
it, you get 5. If you play it correctly because you really needed it, you will get 10 points.
Right.
Doesn't Jeremy get that? Jeremy should get that for playing that, right?
Jeremy played that correctly.
Yeah. He got his points for just using the advantage.
Okay. But he doesn't get any extra for using it correctly?
No, because there's no way for us to know whether or not he would have or would not have.
They said last episode.
They literally said they were
going to vote for Jeremy. That's why Sophie had to have the huddle, and they had to decide on someone else.
They edit like that all the time. They lead us to believe that they're going to vote one person in particular out, and then Tribal comes and goes, and it ends up being somebody else. So editing plays into a lot of that too. I don't think we'll ever know truly if they would have. In all likelihood, Jeremy was going home, but we don't know for sure.
If you're at Tribal and you get votes because you're there and you've played your idol correctly,
you get the point.
Eliminating you from having to go home, you get the extra points. If you're not even at Tribal, there's no votes against you. So we don't know whether or not votes would have or not. And it's all hearsay, them being like, oh yeah, we probably would have voted him.
They didn't say that. They said we would have voted. We were going to vote for Jeremy, and then he took off. So we had to vote for Tyson instead.
Ben Driebergen says 100% that they were going to do
something that actually didn't happen. There was no votes for him. So
yeah, but it's more than hearsay, is what I'm saying, though. When they confess to the camera and say that we were voting for
after
Jeremy.
The fact, what incentive does Ben Driebergen have to say to the camera after the fact we were voting Jeremy out? He doesn't know we've got a spreadsheet going.
I have a question. So Sophie's idol Can she give it to somebody from Extinction? Can she
Nope.
send it
It's
back?
burnt.
She can't. Okay, is it burnt?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's toast. Jeff's confirmed all that. If you leave with an idol, it's gone. Now, if those people, so Natalie and Boston Rob actually have an idol right now that they earned on Edge, which they could play if they got back into the game. But we'll see how that plays out in a few weeks from now. Okay, immunity challenge. I have almost nothing to say about the immunity challenge. There's 8 people holding the pole, and Tony wins the immunity challenge.
Before you said that, I was trying to think, what was it?
Yeah. I kind of like that. Short and sweet.
I like
the
to
only
do
comments
short and sweet.
The only comments that I've heard so far are just like the girls were out first because the pole was too heavy. Like, was it a fair challenge? Should there have been like a male and female winner? Like, that's kind of what I've been reading, but that's about
Probably in this case, I would say that as in favor of the guys. Even Denise was like as muscular as hell, and she was really struggling with that pole, right? So.
Yeah.
Sometimes what they'll do is they will give people poles relative to their body weight, or like whatever it is that they're doing. I don't know if they did that in this case. I have no idea. I did notice the same thing as well. The final 4 were 3 dudes and Sophie. And Sophie's a good challenge competitor, but like, I don't know. She's not going to outgun Jeremy and Tony on something like that. So I did think it was a little unfair, and I really like the idea at that stage, maybe of 2 people winning immunity. Go ahead.
One thing I do have to ask is this: did Jeremy make a mistake when Ben dropped? Did he think that Ben was the last person? Or did he say, "Oh, at least Ben didn't win, so I can step"? Because it looked like he just stepped off.
I know, it was a weird one. I rewatched the episode today, and I forgot to watch that little piece I meant to, but I just kind of fast forwarded past the immunity challenge.
I didn't get that thought. I thought he looked like he wobbled and just came down.
Okay.
I don't think he thought he was the last. Or
he looked very devastated for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a mental error. I actually think that he thought that him and Ben were like, he just lost sight of it. And then when Ben left, he's like, yes, I won. He's like, oh, fuck, Tony's still here.
It's quite possible. I mean, they're out there for, 35 minutes or something like that. It's hot. They're tired. I have no idea. I mean, these immunity challenges don't go the length that some of them used to in the past, where you had 13, 14-hour Tom Westman standing on top of poles. But I don't need something to drag out for that long. I'd rather it was just over with quick. You know what I love this week? No reward challenge. Fine by me.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to. The challenges start to become pretty stale, though. And I think they're going to have to put in a new bunch of challenges, because we've seen all these over and over again.
Yeah.
These ones they did repeat over, and maybe there's a theme with that where they're like, well, these guys have all played before, so we're going to bring up challenges that they've already used. But it's also just production being like, well, we only have so much money.
Right.
And the show's only so popular anymore, right? They used to get dump trucks full of money when it was bringing in 52 million people. And now it's still the #1 show on Wednesday nights, as far as I know. Maybe The Masked Singer is. I don't know.
Oh God, really?
Well, Brandon loves that show.
The what?
The Masked
Singer.
Sure. These things come and they go. Even American Idol come and then it goes. And people challenge Survivor for a while, and then boom, they're gone.
Mute.
Is it still holding at 10 million viewers about?
Huh?
Somewhere around there. It's probably less than that. But, you got a lot of people viewing after the fact, watching CBS All Access, Amazon Prime, torrenting it.
Brad is bored.
It's hard to specifically keep track.
My videos.
You okay there, Pip? We can hear you.
Oh, can you? Yeah, I'm like, hold on. I can't. Am I on mute? No.
No.
You're not.
You put it on and
Sorry.
then it'll be a fun replay.
That was awesome.
So post immunity challenge, I think we've kind of got through this a little bit already. Tony just talks about how he's been very patient and it's time for him to blindside. We see the flip. I love every second of it. I think it's going to be a straight up Jeremy vote, and then we get to Tony saying it's not going to be, and then I'm intrigued and I'm all on board. This has already been the Tony episode. He comes up big again. He actually pulls the move off. Nick Wilson's on board like that. I think I know Michelle's going to be on board, because I think that those two are in cahoots. I love that they leave it at Jeremy, and we're left wondering. There's nothing that really interesting that happens at Tribal. Everyone's keeping everything pretty close to the vest. Nobody says anything interesting about anything that's gone on. I don't know. Did you guys pick up on anything that I missed?
One thing I will say is that there was 0% chance Jeremy was going home this episode, because they gave you no other option All the reaction shots after he lost the immunity challenge were to Jeremy. They really tried to oversell the fact that Jeremy was going home. And then you're sitting there thinking, well, if Jeremy's not going home, who else can it be? I bet Tony's going to do something. And it turns out Tony does something, right? But I didn't think
No, go ahead.
I just, because they were so heavy-handed showing Jeremy going home, that I don't think there was any way he was going home.
It's hard for me to think of an instance where they've really, from the beginning of the episode, hyped up that somebody's going home, and then they actually go home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, usually there's something interesting that happens. So
yeah, that's what I thought was happening here too.
Yeah, I was still surprised. If Jeremy had gone home, I would have not been incredibly surprised, because I didn't know if he was going to buy into what Tony was saying, based on the fact that it's Tony, and no one should be aligning with Tony. Nobody.
Oh, Jeremy should be.
At this point, sure.
Yeah.
Earlier in the game, I don't know.
I think that I think as long as Tony is in the game, unless Tony's the one who cuts your throat, no one's worrying about Jeremy now with Tony. Like, that's the one good
true.
thing. I think just buy Jeremy a little more time.
Okay. I think that you're right. Who are we looking at next week? What do you guys think?
You think it'll be an easy vote next week? Maybe.
I think it's going to be nutso next week. You got 8 people, and they're never straightforward, because you don't have a clear numbers edge, right? With 7, it's 4-3. With 9, it's 5-4. I mean, this was great because it was a friggin' 4-3-2, which is amazing, and you don't see those very often.
No, you don't. I'm going to say Denise, just because she's the one she's had the least amount of edit exposure to this point. And at this point, when you're getting down to this amount of people, you've got to start telling your story if you're in the final 3, right? So just based on that, that's the only thing I can go off of. And also, she's on the wrong side of the numbers too.
So who were the 4 votes against Sophie? It was Tony, Nick, Jeremy,
Michelle,
and Jeremy.
Yeah. So Ben is Ben on the outs of that, but he's in that alliance, no?
No.
Nope.
Ben was in the alliance with Sarah and Sophie, and formerly Nick.
Ben's got almost nothing now. Yeah, formerly Tony. Ben's got almost nothing now. I don't think Ben has a leg to stand. And I do kind of think that maybe they set it up a little bit because Jeremy's like super annoyed with Ben.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and Jeremy wanted him gone this week too, and
that's
talked him out of it. That's a good call.
Who voted for Michelle? Who voted for Michelle? Because she got 2 votes.
Kim and Sarah.
Yeah.
Kim and Sarah were the Michelle votes. So their strategy was to split.
Yeah. And then Denise and Ben would have been for.
So it wasn't actually a 3-4. It was actually a 5-4.
No, it was a 4.
It was a 4-3-2.
It was a 4-3-2.
No, but the 3 and 2 were a 5. They were strategizing together to split the votes.
No,
sure.
Denise,
so there were 5 in total, but they split. Yeah.
But
I'm saying they were working as a 5-sum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it wasn't like 2 people were out and 3 people were together.
But now one of them.
Because they were working.
No, that's not what we're saying.
They were working as a 5-sum, but they were under the impression they were working as 7. Right.
Yeah.
That's what happened there.
They thought Tony and Nick were on board, right? In which case they could have split and they would have been just fine.
Yeah. So I thought you meant there was 3 different groups going on.
We truly could possibly have a 4-4 split.
You won't see it. You won't see it.
If Tyson was on, you'd see it. Right? Tyson will go to Rocks.
Yeah.
That's his greatest move.
I don't think the other 4. This is his greatest move, but this 4 isn't. That was a tight. Those were tight people when Tyson went to Rocks with them, right? Yeah. This remaining 4, they're not going to go into Rocks.
No way. Sarah Lucina's not going to Rocks.
Someone from the old 5 who did the split this tribal. One of the remaining 4 will go to the side with Tony and Jeremy.
They'll be jumping over each other to try to get to that side. That's what I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. And let's not forget, Tony has an idol still.
Yeah.
Tony dictates the play at this point. He absolutely does. And people are going to be coming to him like they came to him in friggin' Cagayan. And it makes no sense. But it makes no sense, but it's going to happen. And that's why Tony is great TV. And that's why if he wins, he's the greatest winner of all time.
I'm saying it right now. Tony's already the greatest player of all time.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. He's already the greatest player of all time.
He's the greatest entertainment.
I think that even his wins are like, maybe you don't always see the logic in it. And in Kagayan, we thought, well, this makes no sense. This cat's going home next episode, right? But he was always able to do damage control, and he was always able to pull it off. So I really think he is one of the best players of all time. And last night's episode made me think, you know what? Maybe this guy is the best of all time.
Him talking Wu into taking him to the final was the best move in the history of Survivor.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Wu.
Absolutely.
Wu goes with Cass, he wins $1 million. He goes
Yep.
with Tony, he wins $100,000.
Yep.
And Tony just convinces him to do it. He's screwed. Tony has no immunity. He's done in that. Anyway, we're talking about Kagayan. We want to do a Kagayan rewatch. We can talk about that in the future. Tony's amazing. Let's turn it over to Greg McKinnon, a.k.a. Junior, to give us a little spreadsheet talk. We did it a bit already. Let's see what he's got for us.
So, the fire tokens were the big talk of the spreadsheet for me, specifically Tony's fire tokens and Natalie's fire tokens. But before we get to that, I'll just recap. Tony obviously found an idol, gets points for that. He also won the individual immunity and got the necklace and got 2 fire tokens as well. And so the other big thing that happened was the Natalie finding the advantage on Edge of Extinction. So she got points for doing that. And then there's the extortion tokens. So it was 6. It's a heavy price. It's 5 points per token, right? So technically Tony's getting 30 points for paying those 6 tokens, and Natalie's going to receive 30 points for getting his 6 fire tokens. Where it gets tricky for me in fire tokens, the other 2, Sarah got 1 because of
Sophie gave her one.
Sophie left her one.
And then Nick, I think, got the other one.
Kim did.
Kim, sorry, yeah, Kim got that one. So there's 15 fire tokens. I'm good with all of that. Now,
Can I ask?
Sure.
So you're saying Natalie got all 6. What if she split with Parv?
Well, as per last week, when Ryan confirmed only one person can find and get points for an idol in Survivor, she found it, so she gets it. So she's getting all of the points.
Natalie Anderson is cleaning up on Exile Island.
So here's where the fire tokens for me get tricky, because we've talked about this in the past, and so far, any fire token given or received, both players have gotten 5 points.
Yeah, you shouldn't get points for getting bamboozled by Tony.
So technically, Tony got 3 tokens. So that's an extra 15 points for getting them, and 5 points each to Nick, Ben, and Jeremy for giving him 3 tokens.
Wow.
So I was kind of thinking about this too, and I can't remember how we worded this, and I should have looked it up. But for me, I kind of feel like if you, it should have been like buys something with a fire token, because you can give somebody something. You don't get anything for it necessarily that's quantifiable. We can't change it now. I mean, if that's how we've been scoring it, what are we going to do? Go back and retroactively?
Well, that's what I was going to talk to you before we came on. We've been scoring it as if you receive or use a fire token in any capacity, because arguments can be made for at least these 3 tokens that he got. He required them. He needed them to accomplish something. They were giving him the fire tokens for a reason, not buying something, but not buying something physical, but maybe buying a little bit of loyalty, or, like, I'm with you. So what is a fire token worth is what we're really talking about.
But that's why it becomes problematic now. So when Tony pays them back now, does Tony get 5 points for giving them back, and then Nick gets another 5 points for getting his fire token back? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I think if I had to redo this, because we didn't know how prominent these were going to be. I knew that every player was going to get 1 token, so I didn't think that it was going to be that much of a factor in the game. But now, as Tony says, the price of milk is getting really high. However, inflation has gone up. It's true. Inflation has gone up. The price of milk is high, and these tokens are just changing hands really fast. So if I were to do it again, I would say, look, if you buy something and you get something specific, and I don't think loyalty is something that you can quantify, and I wouldn't necessarily call that a purchase.
What I would say to Paul's scenario, because that's exactly what I thought too. Like, if he gives them back, then are we giving points again? And what I would say is that I think that's a repayment. So it's almost like a token loan. So what we would do is reverse the 5 points for like, so technically, yes, he got 5 tokens or whatever. So they got 5 points and he got 5 points. And so when he gives them back, it's like a repayment, and we just reverse the 5.
Sure, whatever. It works fine. That reasoning is as good as any other, and we're so deep into the game now, it's hard to
The reason why I think this, I mean, that's the way we've scored it so far all season. So unless people have a major problem with it, I think we should stick with it until the end of the season. But change it for next season if we need to. And
yeah, that seems fine.
So the one thing with all these points being awarded, Jamie made a jump from 21st in the pool to 3rd.
Holy shit.
Wow.
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 I think that means I might be the loser.
I'm in last.
The
Are you?
reason why is because she has both Tony and Natalie. Who,
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that'd do it.
Yeah, these tokens really, maybe it should have been like 3 points or something, but whatever. I mean, I'm not going to rescore the whole thing now. And also, I don't really care if I win the stupid Survivor Pools.
I hope I come in last.
Yeah, I mean I hope I get the Sia money, honestly. I'm nice to every animal that I see. Junior, great job with the spreadsheet. Thank you. If you want to talk about it afterwards or tomorrow, we can.
Sorry if anybody's mad at their pool placement.
My retirement plan postponed.
Great
Hey,
job
you've already
on the
won.
spreadsheet.
All right. Okay, so why don't we turn it over now, Paul? I assume that Tony's the player of the game.
The player of the game is Tony Vlachos.
Yeah.
Player of the season.
For the reasons we all
make it
talked about
really
for the last
controversial.
hour. Oh, yeah. I can't go in any other direction.
I was hoping you just fake some other player and just like try to argue your way into.
Well, yeah, I can make the case.
Tony and
yeah. In Modern Survivor, you can actually make the case for the person who gets the least amount of screen time has played the best game because they haven't put a target on themselves, right? So if you want to go with that reasoning, Denise was your player of the game.
Yeah, she still had a little bit in there, but it really wasn't that much. I like that everybody's getting some screen time now. Oh, yeah, you didn't even talk about the people on the edge of extinction. Danny didn't get any. Danny Boatwright's your player of the game. Amber. Now Amber got to smooch Boston Rob on air, so.
I mean, Natalie didn't get any consideration for randomly finding that bottle with a note and then playing it to Tony, the perfect person, and getting 6 kills.
Not like that. Great on her for her limited capacity, but it's not a candle to a bonfire that is Tony Vlachos.
Now, Paul, I had asked Paul in lieu of his pick of the week, because it was obvious it was going to be Tony, to maybe run through, because I got a question on the Facebook page this week about top 5. What are your top 5 seasons of all time? I don't know if we want to do that tonight. It's a feature I do want to hear from Paul. I know he's going to have some hot takes. Or do you guys, because we're at 8 already, do you want to jump to Randy's segment?
Yeah, if you're running a bit long, I can do this. This is not a time-dependent segment. I could run it through next week. Why don't we do that?
Okay, that sounds great. And then I can hype it up so people are really, and then other people want to come with their hot takes on their top 5 seasons.
You got to get to Randy quick because Randy's going to take probably half an hour to get through.
I'm not doing anything. I am not talking. Ryan is talking. I gave him my list. I am not talking. You guys can argue. Look.
I have. Now, see, what's weird is I have all Randy's top, I put Randy's top hot people. Oh, here we go. Oh, thank God. Okay. I just misplaced some photos of one of them. So I'm going to, these photos are too hot for, okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, buddy. We're going to get you in here real quick. We're not skipping this feature, my friend. Okay.
I was going to tell you while he's
Yeah.
finding this, seasons 1 to 20, the women were really, really hot. Seasons 21 to 40, not so hot.
Interesting. For the men?
Men are hotter.
For the ladies. Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you want to lead off with? I'm going to do all ladies and then all men. What do you want?
Let's go with the men first.
Let's go with the men. Waylon Smithers, let's bring on the men. All right. So I'm going to jump in here, and I hope this works. Guys, is it working? Is it working? Is it working?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a bunch of men.
Okay,
Yeah,
do you
topless.
see a specific man?
No, we see
No.
a folder of ladies and a bunch of men.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see one labeled Underwood Wiener.
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of a take on all these guys, obviously, and we'll get there. I gotta just figure out.
I thought it was because it was like a really a tight shot at his shorts.
Well, you'll find out. Okay.
That's why I leave this up to Ryan. I just give him the names.
Yeah, I'm clearly struggling with the technical stuff right now, and I'm trying to share. Can someone? Okay, I'm really look. That's Chris Underwood. Go ahead, Randy. Start talking about Chris Underwood, and.
I know you guys don't like that he won after he came into the game, but we're just looking at looks. So
Is this doing it now?
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
You can see him now. Okay, there he is, guys. It's Chris Underwood.
Okay.
Can any of you guys pick him out of a Survivor Police lineup?
No.
He looks like every other mannequin
Exactly.
from like the
Sure.
from the
That's why I
early,
picked one.
especially the early seasons. He looks like 4 people from Vanuatu.
I mean, maybe
He does, yeah.
he's a better looking Tony with those tattoos, maybe.
Yeah, I guess he's probably more handsome than Tony, but his tattoos are equally lame. No, Tony's tattoos are worse. Those tribal tattoos, man. Come on. Come on, Tony. So Chris Underwood, this is the only finale I've never seen of Chris Underwood winning. Reputedly a nice enough guy. I don't know the first thing about Chris Underwood, other than he is reputed to have. Damn it! Can I? How do I? There we go. Nope. Okay, we're gonna have to jump through. Okay. Let's see here.
Obama.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can you quite make it out here?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
we
okay.
can see it.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Chris Underwood is reputed to have a I don't know,
A
not
massive
a
dog.
little package, as Tony was talking about today. Oh, I found a little package. This guy has a massive package.
Is this-
Anyway, what's that?
Has this been photoshopped?
No, dude, there's a GIF which I couldn't
Okay.
figure out how to deal with.
Yeah.
The GIF, and it was
Flopping in the breeze?
it was frightening. Yeah, it was really out there. So. Okay, how do I get away from this goddamn Chris Underwood thing now?
Did this factor in his win at all?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not possible. All right, is it okay? What can you guys see? Is it the same stupid picture?
Yeah.
I had a way to do this. Okay, now what?
Man, you were cycling through the photos before.
I know. But when I zoomed in, it kind of went away. Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. I know this is boring. This is a technical. Okay, how about this guy?
I just see us.
Yeah. That's a-
We're a good-looking bunch, actually.
Yes.
Doing my best,
This
guys.
is my top 9 right here.
Doing my best, guys.
Officer 9 in the Sykes Survivor pool.
Yes, right here.
I don't know. I can't even find the Zoom thing now.
You want to put the segment till next week too?
Yeah, let's do it next week.
You want to do it next week? I'm sorry, guys. I just don't know.
No worries.
Okay.
I have to go anyways. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the guys, that's just a little tidbit of what you are going to be in for next week. Sorry, Randy. It was a really big episode tonight. We didn't quite get to it. I appreciate that Randy put in all the time. He has a lot to say. We'll get to it a little bit earlier next week. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for joining us this evening. So nice. Great turnout. Great to see everybody here. Anyone have any parting shots? Anything else they want to say about the episode real quick before we go?
I don't like Tony.
I agree.
I don't even understand that sentiment. How could you not like watching this guy? It's amazing TV.
Him out of the group.
I like watching him. I just don't like Tony.
You're watching a show.
No,
If you like watching Tony, you like watching the show. No?
I love watching the show. I don't like Tony, but I like watching Tony. There's a difference.
I don't think there is.
If you met Tony personally, you would love Tony, I'm sure.
Yes,
I liked watching. I liked Russell Hantz because Russell Hantz was good TV.
Sure.
I do like Russell too, but I don't like him. But I liked watching him.
Okay.
Tony is like a nice version of Russell that you can actually cheer for. He's a lunatic, but he's not a person that's super hateful and misogynistic and horrible.
Yeah.
He's like he's an actually nice guy, I think. My take is, and I put it on the Facebook thing today, if you don't like Tony, you don't like Survivor. And that's, I'm going to leave you with that. I just don't know. I don't know how you can distinguish between those two things.
Yeah.
Tony is Survivor now.
Absolutely. You're going to see this guy play a dozen more times after
He'll
this.
be the new Rob. Is that what you're saying?
He's better than Rob.
Oh, that reaction was gold.
After last night's episode, they'll find any reason possible to bring him back again.
I agree. They'll drive a dump truck of money to his house.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Sophie play again, too. I hope that happens.
I love Sophie.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys. Well, that was a great one tonight. Really great episode. Really great turnout. So nice to see everybody. We'll see you again next week for the Sykes Survivor Talk. Until then, got nothing else for you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, everyone.